The Department of Justice has poured cold water on former President Donald Trump's effort to remove Judge Tanya Chutkan from his federal 2020 election case. In a Thursday night legal filing, special counsel Jack Smith has said that there is, quote, no valid reason to recuse Judge Chutkan. Trump's team, of course, had previously cherry-picked some quotes from her trial of January 6 defendants in order to try to, cast her as biased and unfair and only there to punish Donald Trump. Now, Smith's filing noted that in service of his motion seeking the court's recusal, the defendant both takes out of context the court's words from prior judicial proceedings and misstates the proper legal standards governing judicial recusals. So basically, fancy way of saying, taking the words out of context and trying to use those to prove that she is so unfair. So unfair. Okay. Anyway, the examples that they're using was during one sentencing of one January 6 rioter, Chutkan said the defendant was motivated by blind loyalty to one person who, by the way, remains free to this day. Trump's legal team argued that this indicated that Chutkan believed the former president should be prosecuted and imprisoned, or that could be just a statement of fact because he is indeed still free. I mean, there's nothing that was counterfactual on that one. And given the context of the case where the rioter blamed Trump, because many of them have, there's nothing that she said there that wasn't accurate. That said, Chutkan, in the case, added that she did not make charging decisions and had no influence on that, merely stating her opinion. Wait, I thought there was a First Amendment here, freedom of speech and all. In fact, here's what she said, quote, I had my opinions, but they are not relevant. Chutkan did not say prosecutors wrote that Trump was legally or morally to blame for the events of January 6th, or that he deserved to be punished. But, we've gotten to this point where the right doesn't care about facts, okay?
Just forget about the evidence.
Certainly not Trump, who has taken to his social media platform
Truth, essential.
to call Judge Chutkan, quote, highly partisan. She obviously wants me behind bars. Very biased and unfair. Unfair. Now, look, there's no question that she's been tough on Capitol rioters. Yeah, of course. Because the situation is so unprecedented that you kind of need to send a message, right? That message being, don't storm the Capitol based on anything. Don't storm the Capitol. In 4 cases that Chutkan sentenced the defendant to between 14 and 45 days in prison, despite prosecutors not seeking a custodial sentence, according to an Associated Press report. So again, tough on January 6 rioters. I don't have any problem with that, honestly. But here's the thing. This is, for Trump, a desperate move that is going to fail and fail terribly. In fact, here is the prosecutor's writing. Although the defendant tries to claim otherwise, court statements about which he complains are court intrajudicial statements that the court made while performing its official duties, in direct response to the arguments before it, and which were derived from knowledge and experience the court gained on the bench. Now, speaking to Newsweek after Trump's team filed their motion against Chutkan, Professor Carl Tobias, Williams Chair in Law at the University of Richmond, claimed that their legal arguments were just quote-unquote not sound. These motions are almost never granted unless there is a very clear conflict of interest, which is not present in this case. The only thing rather than how infrequently they are granted is how rarely appeals courts differ with trial court recusal rulings. So look, there is a really high standard for recusing a judge, as there should be, right? Now, the example that I use here is Judge Eileen Cannon, who is probably the most Trumpiest judge, and who was on his case. Look, she's been trying to tip the scales on behalf of Trump, and yet she has not had to recuse herself from the Mar-a-Lago case. That kind of really illustrates how difficult it is to get a judge removed from a case. Because if she hadn't been removed yet, then ain't nobody getting removed, okay? If her conduct, which has been, again, very biased, in my opinion, has not reached that threshold of her having to, recuse herself from the case, then this stands no shot at all. This is just Donald Trump crying and thinking, oh, it's so unfair. How dare you go after me for things that I did? But again, at this point, I think it's the desperation palpable, and they're throwing everything they can against the wall in order to see what sticks. If they don't, and I'm talking about Trump's legal team at this point, right, who is trying every desperate attempt, you might end up having, well, a little bit more than ketchup on that wall if they don't find something, some way to try to placate Trump.